The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray.
Good afternoon. You're watching Usalamedia and the Republican Zone. I am your host, Drew Murray. I am here with my young friend, James Whitehead, who ran in November for the 7th Councilmanic District.
Yes.
All right. And I thought we were going to talk about maybe the 7th Councilmanic race or something else, but as soon as you walked in, you said, did you watch that Mayoral forum last night?
Yeah.
And I did not, but we could still talk about it. I think I read enough about it on Twitter that I'm sure I could have a discussion about it, but I heard on Twitter it was crazy. And It was, I can't say the word, an S show is what people said on Twitter.
Yeah.
So you watched the whole thing?
I watched it.
And you said you watched it twice?
I watched it twice. And because the first time it was like it was shocking, and I was like, man, maybe I didn't see or heard what I think I heard. So I watched it again, the whole entire hour. I think hour duration was an hour and 17 minutes, and I was just shocked about some of the things that I was heard.
And this was only Democrats. David O. I saw David O. wasn't there, and I actually was like, why isn't David O. there? And then if you looked at the banner, it said, who is the next mayor? And then it says Democrat primary debate. So we're both Republicans. So if David O. was in the debate, and I said who won, of course we would say David, but David wasn't in it. So if there was a winner and if there was a loser, I think so. Who was in it? Number one, Amon Brown was in it. Helen Gim. Jeffrey Brown, Alan Dom, Rebecca Reinhardt,
Sherelle Parker,
Derek Green, and Sherelle Parker. Yeah. So 7. So was there a clear winner?
In that debate, I felt like Alan Dom, and to me, Alan Dom hit a lot of key points. He said the right things, and he stayed clear from the mudslinging because there was a lot of mudslinging.
Oh, so no one went after Alan?
No.
All right. So basically, what I read on Twitter, if I were to guess, Jeffrey Brown, they were going after him for his campaign finance issues that he's having, and everyone heard about Amon Brown going after Helen Gim. Was there any other muds? Did Sherelle or Derek get anything at him? I think Derek was going after Derek Green did go after Jeffrey Brown.
He did. A lot of them. It's not shocking to me because, for one point at a time, Jeff Brown was in favor.
Yeah.
But so a lot of the candidates felt like he's the attack.
No, absolutely. He's popular in West Philadelphia.
Yes.
Look, he opened up ShopRights and food deserts when no one else did, and he was successful at it. So he made a lot of money at it. But people in West Philly. Black voters in West Philadelphia love him. He got a lot of union endorsements for unions that work in that industry. I thought he was a favorite early on, although I thought he was going to split votes with Alan Dom because they're very similar people in the demographic. They're both white men.
Yeah,
they're both Jewish, and they're both very successful business people who could put their own money into the campaign.
Right.
So I would agree. He was definitely. I never thought he was going to win, but I thought he was going to do very well. But
yeah, I figured he was going to do well, and I had him at the front runner for quite some time, and then things started to come out about the campaign finances. Then that made me a little airy about things because, like when you're going into being the mayor or going into Congress, you usually want to have a good reputation. They say 30 years to build it and a couple seconds to ruin it.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, and now I'm looking at it going,
And he's had some campaign finance issues, and I will say I've not had a chance to, because I'm in my own campaign, so I'm mostly worrying about Drew Murray, Republican for city council at large. But I've read some things very quickly, and to give people background, because most people don't even know what the hell campaign finance, what the issues are, or what the rules are, I should say, in Philadelphia. And the rules are $3,100 for an individual. So if you were to give my campaign money, you couldn't give me more than $3,100 as an individual. And then a political committee or a company could give up to, I think it's 12.5. It's either 12.5 or 12.6. I think it's 12.5. Now, so those are the limitations. Now, if one person in the race donates their own money, $250,000 or more, then those limits double.
Yes.
So they've been doubled in the sheriff's race, which is insane that someone put $250,000 of their own money into the sheriff's race. Maybe even the controller, but definitely mayor, because I think both Jeffrey Brown and Alan Dom have put $250,000 of their own money in. So that's double. So it's $6,200, and let's just say $25,000. It's either double 12.5 or 12.6. I think it's 12.5. So let's say $25,000.
Yeah.
So that's the most anybody can give. So a union, let's say you get a union endorsement, they can only give the mayor's race $25,000, and that's in a calendar year. So someone could give on December 31st. 12.6 because it wasn't doubled until this year. But they could have given Jeffrey Brown or Alan Dom or Cheryl Parker 12.5 on December 31st, and then on January 1 they could give another 12.5. And then since it doubled, they could have given another 12.5. So theoretically, a group could give up to $37,500 if they started last year. So that's how it works.
Yeah, and I've seen that. It was being brought up as Jeff Brown and the dark money, right? His name has been associated with dark money.
So what that means is there are independent expenditure groups that can spend as much money as they want on a campaign.
Yes,
for example, they can come in and say, you know what, I'm supporting James Whitehead. I'm ABC Political Action Committee, and I'm going to put $5 million into TV commercials for James Whitehead for the 7th Councilmatic District. Mm-hmm. Perfectly legal, as long as the money doesn't run through the campaign, and as long as the candidate or their team does not coordinate with that independent expenditure political action committee.
Right.
So as soon as they coordinate, and what does that mean? Coordinate. They call up and say, "Hey, do this on the commercial." They can't do that. They can't email. They can't text and tell them what to do. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know the exact line of what, obviously the candidate is going to know the independent expenditure is going for them, so I don't know the exact line, but from what reports that are coming out, Jeffrey Brown crossed that line and coordinated with independent expenditure PACs, or PAC, I think it might be one, with his campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, they were, I read that all through the Twitter blogs and things like that. Another person that had outside of David O that had my interest was Cheryl Parker, mm-hmm. And she's a very strong candidate. She went from being a dark horse into, my opinion.
So I didn't watch last night, but if you ask me right now to put $1 million on the Democrat side, who was going to win, and I don't think there's any clear front runner, but if they said, Drew, you have to put $1 million on one person, who would it be? And then this doesn't mean this is who I want to win or who I'm endorsing, but it would be Cheryl Parker. I think she's currently the front runner because she has a lot of union support, so she's got a decent amount of money and can compete with Alan Dom and Jeffrey Brown's money, and even they're all raising a lot of money, and she is Northwest. Northwest is one of the most powerful voting blocks in the city of Philadelphia. That's where she's from.
Northwest.
Yep.
Chestnut Hill, Mount Airy, Roxborough.
A huge voting block. So that's why I think, but I don't know. Yeah. Do you have? So you thought Jeffrey Brown was leading. Who do you think's leading now? Do you have Cheryl? So I thought Alan Dom had a chance, but I think Alan's problem is that his demographic is too close to Jeffrey Brown. Again, white, successful Jewish business person.
We go to the same synagogue.
Yeah, what was that?
We go to the same synagogue.
That's right, yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Now, you would be a different demographic because I'm sure there are not that many Republican, black, Jewish young men.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. And
that is a small demographic.
That's a very small demographic, so I can't even go to I would have to start something from scratch and just see who's fills into the demographic of who can join in the group, but it's going to be very slim.
Yeah, I remember I texted you at one point. I knew you're Republican, and number one, there are a lot more black Republicans than people believe. But when I knew, my wife's Jewish, you said something to me over text, and I was like, "Are you Jewish?" Yeah. And you're like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay." Yeah. Surprising, but you were far from the only. There's plenty of black Jewish people, but it's the Republican, black, Jewish, and Republican. That's kinda...
yeah. But actually, the interesting thing was what actually made me, switch parties from Democratic. I was once a Democrat, and I switched over to Republican because when I was living in a nice town, that's when I had my aha moment, and I was thinking, like, you know what? I'm gonna start my own company, Royal Advertising. And I remember getting the business license from Philadelphia, getting the insurance from the state, and that's when I had the moment, like, you know what? It's just too much red tape. Here I am, a guy, living with his girlfriend's mother, trying to get my feet wet, trying to start my company, and I'm having a lot of red tape. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the there's a lot of reasons why I went Republican, but this is one that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, especially in the inner city. When you try to start something, you have little to no help, and there's a lot of government red tape almost getting in the way of you starting your becoming an entrepreneur. And I remember going halfway through the process, and it was like, well, you got to do this, you have to do this, and I'm like, yo, this is too much red tape. I just want to get to the ground and running. And I know that being Republican, we favor entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. We favor that.
And that red tape is a barrier to entry for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is, because it could potentially make or break people in the process of starting.
Well, entrepreneurs oftentimes don't have, they're starting from scratch. They don't have the capital to start the company. At least they don't. It's not an easy thing for them to do. So when you have a lot of red tape, when you make it more and more challenging to start a business, that's a barrier to entry. And a lot of young entrepreneurs give up.
They do,
and you lose those opportunities.
Yeah, I've seen that quite often, especially coming into entrepreneurship. When I started my advertising company, Royal Companies, I didn't have a traditional education in terms of the college experience of going to school for a master's degree or a bachelor's degree in business administration. I simply learned how to start a business by purchasing books and going to the library. I was actually utilizing my library quite often, because at one point I was just like, well, why am I going to school for business administration? And I'm learning everything at home. What I was reading in the book, I was learning from home. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone from going to college, but what I'm trying to encourage people to do is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be in politics, educate yourself. You got so many books in the library. You could, free. You could just read and educate yourself before you get into it, and that's what I did. And I started my company off of that. But that's one of the major reasons why I diverted from Democratic to.
And when was that?
That was in 2010.
Oh wow, a long time.
Oh, I remember vividly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So it wasn't a couple years ago. You must. How old were you?
I was like 20 years old. Okay. 21 years old. 21 going on 22.
I was about to say, you had to be barely old enough to vote.
Yeah.
So you
22.
You were younger than I was when I switched. So anything else from the debate?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know there were. I know.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we talked about before the show was, and again, I didn't see it, but I looked at one clip because I had to, because it was all over Twitter. It was did Helen Gim really just say that? And I'm not disparaging Helen. Helen is my neighbor, and I don't really talk badly about anybody. I'll talk badly about policy, but I don't really disparage anyone individually. Yeah. But Amon Brown, who was my state rep actually in the 10th legislative district, he asked her a question, and what was it?
Yeah, he asked her a question. He said, "Well, didn't you meet with
Edelman?
One of the Edelman from Edelman from the 76ers organization?" And she said, "Yeah, we met, but we didn't talk about anything." And it just don't make sense. Like you don't call nobody on the phone and say, "Hey, let's meet up," and we just sit across the table and don't say nothing.
So yeah, and that is the only clip I saw, and I was just like, I don't think Helen. Well, number one, even the moderator said we're not asking. It's not up to the candidates to ask other candidates questions. So I think even the moderator was taken back that Amon was asking that question, and obviously Helen wasn't ready for it. And I'm surprised. I would have thought Helen would have been ready with an answer, because she obviously did meet with them. I don't know if she's publicly 100% said she's opposed to the arena, but that certainly sounds
she's
like
opposed. She's opposed.
She did say 100%.
She's 100% against the arena being built because she said it doesn't fit. I'm not going to directly quote her, but it went along some, from my opinion of it, from hearing her speak, it went along the lines of the people. Like she made her decision based off the people that she represents and what she thinks is right for the city of Philadelphia.
And look, I'll be honest with you. If I'm a mayoral candidate and I'm going to say I'm opposed to something, I don't think there's anything wrong with meeting with the Sixers, the side that is obviously for this arena.
Yeah.
If for no other reason to say, look, I'm going to meet with both sides. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to have an educated reason why I am for or against something. So I don't think it was a problem that she met with them. The problem was that her answer was not. It was not a great answer.
No,
and I'm
because
curious,
she wasn't prepared.
She wasn't prepared. Now, Helen is very smart. You could disagree with Helen's politics, but Helen is very smart. I wonder if she came out, and I'm almost asking this as a question. I wonder if she came out with another statement today, because her response in that mayoral debate was not good for her. I mean, if it were me, and it was a tough question but I guess I would have thought she would have said, yes, I did meet with them. I met with them because I wanted to hear both sides of the story. I was opposed to the arena before I met with them, and I'm still opposed to it. If she said that, then that would
have cleaned the slate right
now,
there.
I obviously could have. I thought about that answer, so I was able to give a better answer than Helen. Yeah. So again, I'm not disparaging her, but I was very surprised that her answer was, we didn't discuss anything. Well, what were you discussing?
Yeah, I don't know. She's going to have coffee.
I just think she was caught blindsided.
It was awkward silence at that meeting. That meeting was an awkward silence.
Did they bring up the arena in other questions? I know in the mayoral forum that I did for the Crosstown Coalition on March 28th, that was a yes or no. So we had, and a lot of debates do that. So you'll ask a question where they can talk, and they have a minute and a half, 90 seconds to speak. But then you have bullet rounds where it's just like yes or no. So we asked that question: are you in favor? I forget the exact verbiage, but are you in favor of the arena? And I think we even phrased it: if it can be done in a way that does not detriment, is not a detriment to Chinatown. And a lot of them refused to put up yes or no. They said this is not a yes or no question.
Yeah, they did that. They had they actually had the candidates do like write on the board and say yes or no. And one of the things I found very interesting, they asked a question regarding to, it said, would you, they asked the question, it said, it was about the DA. And I thought that the DA would get a lot more support from the city council, especially the Democrats. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the candidates just was opposed to
a lot of them said
Larry
no.
Krasner. Yeah, a lot of them said no.
I know, and this was I must have seen another clip, because I know Rebecca Reinhardt didn't answer it, and she said because that DA Larry Krasner has gotten a lot of people who are incarcerated and found not guilty. They're not necessarily innocent, but not guilty later. She said that's why I think and I support DA Larry Krasner. But if I remember correctly, I think Jeffrey Brown put no. I think Allen may have put no.
Yeah.
I don't know what Sherelle did.
Sherelle said no.
She said no too. Did Helen say anything?
Helen said she supports.
She put yes, or she refused to answer?
No, I believe she put yes. But I do know one thing.
Yeah, I don't remember. Rebecca didn't do anything. Rebecca said, I can't answer that.
Yeah, she didn't answer it. And I remember they said to Helen, would you put more money into the DA's office? And she said yes. She would put the extra money. But a lot of the candidates like Derry Green and them were, talking about they just don't like where Larry Krasner's gone.
Yeah, no, I would not give the district attorney any more money. I'd give the police more money at this point. But Larry Krasner's office, he's having people quit. And it's interesting. I did talk to someone from the district attorney's office last night at the city council event, and one of the things he said, he's like, there's a lot of turnover because you just don't pay enough for the assistant district attorneys. And he said, would you be willing to support higher pay for the assistant district attorneys? I think they make about $70,000 coming out.
Yeah, $70,000 coming out.
I said, not with the way it's currently being run. Right now there's a lot of turnover. That could be part of the reason, but there's a lot of turnover because people his office is in disarray, and that's why people are leaving. It's they're not getting paid any less than before Larry Krasner, and there didn't seem to be much of an issue prior to the current district attorney. So, I'm not opposed to giving people, look, they're attorneys. And that was his argument. Like, I went to school, and this was a person who didn't even go to college right after. So he actually didn't go to college till later in life. He said, I went to college, I got my undergraduate degree. That took me 4 years. Then I went to law school for 3 years, and I'm only making $70,000 a year. And I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, you're going into public service. No, you don't go into public service to make money. If you want to make money as an attorney, go into private practice. If you choose to do, honestly, and I'll be honest, that's one of the reasons why I didn't become an attorney, because I was like, what interested me was being a prosecutor. And I looked at it and I said, I'm not going to make any money. So I'm not a wealthy man, but I was like, I'm not going to go. I said, I'm not going to school for 3 years after, I'd already gone to undergrad. I thought I was going to go right to law school. I said, you know what? I don't want to be a prosecutor unless I can make a lot of money or a decent amount of money. I don't have to be a rich man, but
a decent amount of money to make a living.
Yeah.
See, that's the point. Like, the problem here is so Philadelphia, the job sector, and a lot of the jobs that are available that pay quite well require some sort of degree, and they bring up the public schools too as well, and this goes into that, right? So, like, a lot of jobs that pay pretty well require a bachelor's degree or some sort of degree and experience. But the problem here is the current Philadelphia school district, in my opinion, is failing the kids miserably. And I am a graduate of Philadelphia Public School, Benjamin Franklin off of Burn Spring Garden, graduated class of 2007. And I remember going into college, not totally being prepared. I went there, I'm thinking, like, I'm just going to play football and enjoy life, be on the college campus, and, what we do on the college campus,
I studied. That is all I did. I studied on the college campus.
I didn't do too much of that. But I did do some studying. But what the problem was, the No Child Left Behind Act, and then the public school of Philadelphia not really catering to my needs, just sort of like pushing me through. I wasn't totally prepared for college, because what happens is, when a lot of the guys in the inner city community, especially those who are African American and brown, when we get into college and we just feel like, society has told us, people have told us, go to college. And we do so because we're in hopes of one day having a job and having a secured income. But what the problem is, when we get into the colleges, we can't keep up with the education that's being taught, because we've just been pushed through. We have like a ninth grade.
You didn't think, the school district did not prepare you for college?
No, absolutely not.
Now, did it start in high school, or did grade school not prepare you for high school, and then consequently high school didn't prepare you for college?
It could have went into that chronological order, because when I went into college and they did a test assessment, and it was like, yeah, man, your writing level is around the 10th grade level. And I'm like, wow. And
I'll be honest with you, from what I've heard, that might be above average.
It's above average.
It's above average for the school district of Philadelphia, unfortunately. For the non-magnet schools, like at Ben Franklin High School, for the non-magnet schools.
Yeah, and because most of them are in the middle schools, 6th, 7th, 8th grade writing level, 6th grade math level, comprehension and reading. All of that goes a long way. Without the basics of education, then college education for anybody's, especially black or brown, to achieve a degree. They said, I read this thing, and I forgot, I'm trying to quote it, I forgot. But they said that 17% of black and brown men in Philadelphia have associate's degrees, and 5% of black and brown men in Philadelphia have bachelor's degrees, which means you back to ask the question, well, where the hell is the other 80%? And it's not a secret that that majority of the prison system is filled with African-American men, and who commit most of the crimes as African-American men, and most homicides come from African-American men. I think the best way of cutting that number down would only be through education. It's
Sure.
the only true
I
way.
said we can't legislate ourselves out of poverty. We got to educate ourselves out of poverty.
Absolutely. And then it's like it goes back to secure income and jobs. Because when I grew up in a community like Nicetown or Frankfurt, especially I live in Kensington, and a lot of them feel hopeless. They feel like, well, there's only one way to do it. I'm not going to lay on the ground or lay on my back and die. So this is when they indulge into a life of crime because they feel like, well, I can't get a job with the city or a job that has a secured income. They go straight to the streets because that's what's in front of them, and they see the guy driving down the street with a Rolls Royce, or not Rolls Royce, but a car that's much fancier. The drug dealer becomes desirable to the kids because he has everything that money can buy in terms of like the Mercedes-Benz.
And they don't know and understand that drug dealer's probably not going to live past 30.
No, absolutely not.
They don't see that part of it. They just think, oh, wow, that guy, look, he's 25. He's got whatever kind of car he has. This he has a car.
Yeah.
And he's able to dress well, and he does this and does that. And they look and I get it. And education is a way to break that cycle.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best way to, although we do need police on the streets, don't get me wrong. But I feel like with that, and also putting more money into an educational system that works, not broken, and kids are going to school with asbestos or nutrition. It's very poor, in poor conditions, put it that way. You can't expect a child to learn in poor conditions. He's going to be distracted. He's going to be discouraged. He's not going to feel upbeat. Like they did a study. They said that kids that study in classrooms with windows perform better than those who don't. It might be like 2 windows in there versus a classroom that's well lit, vibrant, and state-of-the-art facility. Yeah, because it feels like more when I went to when I would go into school, it felt like a sense of a prison almost, because we would go to the metal detectors. We had real police on the scene. It was not well lit. It was cold. That sort of discouraged me from going.
But now Ben Franklin is nice, actually.
Yeah,
now it's nice. Now it has Science Leadership Academy and Ben Franklin. Nice now. So now they redid it. So that's good. But it's still not considered a great school.
No, it's not.
It's still not considered a great school.
No.
So before we only have a couple minutes left, I want to touch on. So you did run for the 7th Councilmatic District.
Yes.
In the special election in November.
Yes.
The same time I was in the special election for City Council.
Yes.
You know, we both probably knew that we were long shots at best. I mean, I knew I didn't have a chance to win.
Me too. It's my first time running.
Look, hey, you learn, and the greatest thing about the special election is that you don't have to get signatures. And I said that in November. I'm like, this is great. I'm on the ballot because I've gotten signatures. That was the first time I was on the ballot where I didn't have to go get signatures. And I know how hard it is to get signatures. And so I ran in a race, or I'm running in a race this cycle that's citywide. And you texted me at one point, like, Drew, I'm going to carry your petition. I'm like, don't carry my petition. I said, carry your own petition. That's it. I said, you're running in a councilmatic district that is really hard because there aren't enough Republicans. You needed 750 signatures. I needed more. I needed 1,000, but I got to go anywhere in the city I wanted. You have to stay in the 7th Councilmatic District. And for example, like I live in Center City. I didn't knock on a single door in Center City, with the exception of people I knew. Like I would call my buddy up and say, hey, and there are not many buddies of mine who are Republicans in Center City. Say, hey, I'm coming over with my petition. And I'm a ward leader, so I had to get more petitions signed. But most of my time, I drove up to Northeast Philadelphia almost every single day. And I would say 19 out of the 21 days I drove to Northeast Philly. And the other day I drove to South Philadelphia. And then the one day it just poured all day, so I couldn't drive anywhere. I just called people on the phone trying to get signatures. You didn't have that. You didn't have that luxury. You have to stay in the 7th Councilmatic District. And I don't even know what the number is. If there's only 116,000, because you have to get signatures from Republicans. If there's only 116,000 Republicans in the whole city.
Right.
I don't even. Do you remember the number? I mean, how many are there? Maybe, Are there 5,000 maybe?
It was around 5,600.
Yeah. So it's probably almost impossible, and it's unfair because as a Republican, you should absolutely be able to run if you put the work in. But as you learn, and it was the first time you didn't. And I tell everyone, if you've never gotten signatures before, you don't know how hard it is.
Very challenging.
It is extremely challenging, even if you have help, even if you have that. I mean, I had people helping me, and it was extremely challenging. I went out 8 hours a day, and then I went to events at night. I would say I worked on average for 21 days straight, 22 really, on average 10 hours a day is what I spent on signatures.
Right.
And it was possible for me to get it. Do you think it would have been, so you didn't get enough signatures. Do you think it's possible to get 750 in the 7th Councilmatic District, or do you think it might be impossible?
It's going to require a lot of manpower, because the struggle that I had was trying to cover as much ground as possible.
And like in the Northeast, I would be able to go to it was probably every other house, or 1 out of 3 houses on a block is Republican.
Yeah.
You probably had 1 house on a block.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some blocks with 0.
0.
And you can't, so that means there are not enough people. You're walking a lot farther.
A lot further. And I had my best friend drive me around while I would, look at the addresses. And it was very challenging in a sense. One thing I would like to see is that, I know City Council at large, like you stated, gets 1,000 signatures. And City Council in the 7th District gets 750. I believe that number should be a lot lower.
Oh, I agree.
I think around 250 or 500 would
I would agree. But the challenge is this. That's a state, that is decided by the state legislature.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's going to be any movement in the state legislature to make it easier.
No,
because honestly, it's harder for us in Philadelphia as Republicans. It's harder for Republicans in Allegheny County.
Yes.
But for the rest of the state, it makes it harder for Democrats. So I think they're, in their opinion, since it's, right now there is a split legislature now, but typically it's been run by Republicans. I don't think we're going to see that, but I agree. I think it should be lower than, it should be a percentage of the registered voters in a district. So, for
that's
example,
even better than what that's even better than what I am.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it. There's 800,000 Democrats in the city of Philadelphia. There's 116,000 Republicans. We should not have to get the same amount of signatures as they do. It should be proportional. So if it's 1,000, for example, city council, then it should be more like 150 for a Republican, because it is that hard. It is extremely challenging. And guess what? It was hard. I ran in 2019 for city council at large. I ran in 2020 for a state rep seat in the 182nd legislative district, which I knew I was going to lose. I was a name on the ballot as a favor to the party. You only have to get 300 in the legislative district because it's a lot smaller.
For state rep.
Yeah. I said that 300, for me, I got 450 is what I got that year, was harder than when I got 1,500 in 2019.
So was it easier for the state rep run, you think?
No, it was harder. I had a harder time for state rep getting 450 than I did getting 1,500.
Why do you think that is?
Because it was in Center City. People in Center City do not answer their doors. Well, number one, they don't answer their doors. Number two,
I would think they would answer their doors. I mean,
Yeah, and I bet in the 7th Councilmatic District now, and this was part of what I was going for. In 2019, people answered their doors more than they'll answer them now, because now they have the Ring doorbells. People don't feel safe because the city of Philadelphia is not as safe as it used to be. In Center City, and I'm sure it's true in the 7th Councilmatic District too, there are multifamily homes. Like you can't go to an apartment building and knock on those doors. So those were all wiped out. I will tell you, in Center City, if there's a multifamily home, like an RM1, which means it's a single unit but with 3 apartments, people do not answer their door if they're in an apartment. Like if you go up and there's 3 doorbells, I don't even hit the doorbell.
Yeah,
because they don't answer. They're not going to answer. If they live on the 3rd floor, they're not answering that door.
You're going to have to come all the way down.
Unless they're having food delivered. That's your only shot. If they're having food delivered, they might answer the door.
But at that point, they're going to see the Ring doorbell. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're trying to sell me something.
So I think it might be impossible to get 750 signatures. The only way it would be possible, honestly, you would probably need a team of 30 to 40 people.
Yeah, and that takes funding.
Yeah. And that's expensive. And even the only way for you to get 750, I will tell you, based on the percentage of the houses that answer their door, I think only 20% of the people answer their door. So just look at the numbers. If there's only 5,600, you're going to have to hit every single door.
Every single
in the 7th Councilmatic District which is almost impossible unless you have 30, 40 people.
Yeah, absolutely. But the reason why I embarked on the challenge is because I like a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm a fighter. You know what I mean?
And we even had an event for you to try to change people over, to sign. I mean,
yeah, we did.
We didn't get a ton, and it was last minute, so we
Last
didn't.
minute.
It wasn't, we didn't get a ton. We maybe got 15, and then we got it from others too. But we specifically put in the 7th Councilmatic District to help you a little bit. But we only got you like 15.
But I can say one thing, that people in the neighborhood are starting to know me for who I am.
Good.
Even down when I'm going down Center City, people know, and people are like, "Yo, Mr. White." I'm like I don't say that I know you, but I just shake their hand and say, "Hey, how do we know each other? What a favor." And they go, "Oh no, I follow you on Instagram and Twitter, and I love what you got going on." Although I'm a registered Democrat, but I love what you got going on. So that encourages me a lot more. But even after this year, I'm going to be running next year for state rep in my
all right, good.
my district.
And I will help you because I can help you knock doors. I personally would have helped you this year.
But you're
But
running
I was
with
getting
me,
my
so
own, and that's why. And that's when you said I'm going to carry, because you could carry my petition and get signatures for me. But I said, don't do it. I said, do not worry about me.
Yeah,
I said,
you focus on
I
yourself.
said, you worry about you. Don't you worry about getting anybody else signatures. I said, your 750 alone is going to be enough for you.
You were definitely helpful through the entire process.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
look, you learn.
You still are.
You learn in 2019. Look, I knew going in 2019, I was new to the party. I was new to running. I knew going in I was probably going to lose, but I was like, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm going to learn. And then in 2023, where we are now, that is when I'm going to win. That was my plan to win. Little did I know I was going to be in 2 more races in between there that I had no intention of being in. But in 2020, they asked me to run for the state rep. I said no 3 times or 2 times. I think I said no twice. And then the 3rd time, and this is I said, what chance do you think I have to win? And this is to people from the House Republican Campaign Committee, which you'll get to know the HRCC when you run for state rep. I said, if they answer me honestly, I'll run. That was in my mind. I didn't tell them that. I said, what are my chances to win? They said 0. I said, all right, I'll do it. I said, I will do it. I said, I'm like, if you lied to me and said I had a chance, then I was going to say no. I said, I'll do it, but you got to help me. You got to support me. You got to give me a little bit of money, which they'll give you maybe a little bit. The HRCC doesn't give too much money to races that you can't win. But I did run, and then of course we had the special election in November. So I'm in my 4th race in 5 years. So, but this is the first. I tell people this is the first race I can actually win. It's the first race I've been in that I can and expect to win. So
got it. I like that.
So now, you learn, and hopefully in the state rep position, you'll be able to get on. I will help you knock doors. It's still going to be hard. You're going to want a team, and you're going to want 3 weeks. That's why I tell people, if you're the candidate for 3 weeks, you better have nothing. If you have a full-time job, you better be ready to work at night, because during the day, starting at noon, you need to be out there knocking doors, even on a Tuesday. Noon on a Tuesday, you need to be out there knocking doors.
Yeah.
You might not get many people answering, but if you get 10 during the day, that's 10 more than you would have.
So everyone that's watching this, Drew Murray just gave y'all some education. So anyone that's in politics, please educate yourself if you're going to go into the field. Please. And surround yourself with people that are already in politics. That's something I wish that I would have done a lot sooner. Because the Philly GOP most certainly helped me out through the duration of me running for the special election, helped me file the paperwork and things of that nature. So I want to say thank you, Drew, for
we are coming to that. So thank you for coming on. We'll have you back on again. We'll definitely have you back on when you're running for state rep.
Yeah.
And we didn't even ask you. Are you planning on trying some sort of write-in for the 7th Councilmatic District? Do you think you're going to try it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what that means is, do you need 750 write-ins?
Yeah, I would need 750 write-ins
to get on the ballot.
On the ballot in November.
And then you would be in the okay. Yep. So I'll help you out with that as well, and we'll have you back on.
Got it. Let's
All right, my friend. All right. So we're coming to an end. You're watching Usalamedia, the Republican Zone. I am your host, Drew Murray. Thank you for watching.
The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray.